Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 44th live online reading event. I love multiples of 11, so this is a very exciting event number for us. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm so thrilled and thankful to be here with you, welcoming 2023 with this evening's reading four amazing poets and this cat, whose name is Basil, and he's going to help us out tonight. If you have not listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series of mostly poetry, but not always, hosted via Skype. And we usually do it on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. We were off for the holidays in December, but we're back hitting the ground running in January, and our next reading will be in February on that third Thursday. At each of our events, we feature a group of invited readers to share a selection of their work with us. Having slots for readers every month means we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in reading. So if you are or know a poet or writer who'd be interested in sharing their work at a future event, please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from people. We'd love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at Performance Anxiety, which is Performance ANXT in the tag, or you can just DM or email us, the co-organizers, directly. I'm Tom Snarsky, TomSnarsky on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us at poetrybooksontape@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristin Garth, Performance Anxiety's other co-organizer and founder, who I'm very excited to A, introduce as our first reader of the evening, and B, wish a belated happy birthday to from earlier this week, because it was Kristin's birthday earlier this week. So happy birthday, Kristin. Thank you so much for kicking us off. Take it away.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to be reading tonight from my newest book that just came out, and it's like 213 pages, I think, of Shakespearean sonnets that are pretty dark and on different topics. But I'm going to just read a few from the first one I'm going to read is called it's after the show Servant, which is one of my favorite shows, and it's called Those Midwest Dead Eyes. You would like to wear a bright bikini, call a boy who doesn't make you cry. Seems whenever they're close enough to kiss, the agitation flutters angel moth wings inside your resurrected eye. Goads those guileless guys you'll eulogize, wedding rings that might have been, to flee the shadows where you saunter, to innocence again. Only the afflicted follow you to bed, potent as the consecrated knife upon which an extended family has bled. They sometimes strive to turn towards life, crawl back inside your little death instead, to feel alive in something a little dead. And this book, I wrote the title Lollygagger is an ode to me being old and starting in my writing life later than a lot of people here, and so, but also being woman childish, and so it's to celebrate that, because like this is my 27th, well no, this was my 26th, I have a 27th book coming out later in the year, and I started all that when I was 40, so the message of, this is like, it's never too late, so to be who you really were supposed to be. So Mithridatism. They press a thimbleful to your lips during the rarest celestial eclipse. They say you must swallow. Venus obscures. Whirring of shadows, sentience blurs. That first day you seize upon symbols inscribed on the floor, amidst a circle of elders who have done so before. Conjures cyclops, centaurs, seraphim, fiends upon your behalf as you float between home, heaven, hell, psychopharmacological paths. Wound you will weather to one day be well, writhing for witnesses, weakened with wrath, but immune to the poison enemies pour. Tonight they give you a little more. And the next poem I'm going to read is a true crime. I have a lot of true crime poems in here because I watch a lot of true crime. But this one is about the Doomsday Mother in Idaho, who is accused of killing her children, so that she would be able to, become a god, she thought. And it's called Murder or This. Explain to a bishop, it will be murder or this. Divine rites of the temple, not teen vampiric kiss, scribed by girl Latter-day Saint, 100 million or so bought, alternative scripture, eternal bodies perfected by blood, a bikinied martyr imbibes with pressure can purple whole peas from your year's supply. Any female you heed, you learn by 8 to deny, like all the rot and dark thoughts behind a cheerleader smile, the incest you forgot, acquiesced, and then sought to fashion an executioner you have beguiled. Deem you immortal, the temple spirits, and no one believes you would murder for this. And I'm going to read one that is after Twin Peaks, which I wrote called Doppelganger. Off-screen, it seeks her in bed, withering between alive, dead, no Audrey season 1, French fries, a malt, good coop lowering a gun. It sets the stage for season 3, white rooms, her mental fragility, precarious as hyoid bones, hospitalized, comatose, no secret agents, angels, only a saddle-shoed ghost whose whites of eyes it brutalized, the most disguised as him to whom she prayed. Every seraph's gone away in the mass-produced acrylic prints in this medical establishment, along with her effervescence when she awakes. Everything he saved, his doppelganger breaks. And this poem is about, it's after the movie Metropolitan by Whit Stillman, and it's called, Does the Name Polly Perkins Mean Anything to You? Depressed girls reach the age when a pet cannot assuage their disillusionment with the dressage of life or ordinal placement of a salad knife, useless to extract the pith from white tie table talk etiquette. Young barons, barren of human sentiments, become preferred escorts to the delicate debutantes who only dress in blue, spent a season ignoring you, postpone the blood predestined pained, coerced post-regatta non-exclusive after-party train, flood defiled flesh with happy by Clinique, drawn to stables when death seems like relief, to die with beast they never lay beneath. And I think the last poem I'm going to read is called The Fetish of Locks. She never was safe until she was old, aged out of coercive control, rented her flesh to own a one-bedroom house. Inside, she's consoled with sex toys, dollhouses, men she regrets letting inside, manipulates exits. How long will she have to hide behind a fortified cottage door? Too many fists abused after being ignored, declined. A jar of refrigerated pickles evanesces to brine, and she hungers for sustenance, even mankind. Not pixels, but palpable pleasures, a younger version held out an eager tongue to taste before the fetish of locks held her in place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristin, for leading us off tonight. Thank you for your invitation into the world of lollygaggers. That was wonderful, and you can tell I'm rusty because I completely realized, I was like, oh my God, I forgot to read Kristin's incredible bio, because in addition to her 26 books of poetry and prose, Kristin is also a Pushcart and Riesling-nominated sonneteer, Best in the Net 2020 finalist, the dollhouse architect of Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, in which capacity you may have gotten to know her, and she's also on Twitter, so if you'd like to reach out to her and keep in touch with all of the projects that she's doing, or get in touch about a future performance anxiety reading, you can find her on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE, on Instagram at Kristin Ingrid Garth, KristinIngridGarth, and her website, kristingarth.com, which is always being updated with all the awesome stuff she's editing, writing, doing, just all of it. So thank you again, Kristin. It's good to be back in the driver's seat in 2023 with you at the helm. So thank you for that. Basil is just screeching his applause to the roof. I will hold him again, and then he will, quietly and respectfully and excitedly listen to our next reader, who I'm very, very, very excited to introduce as Eliot Cardinaux. Eliot Cardinaux is a poet, pianist and composer living in Western Massachusetts. I'm a Massachusetts born and raised person myself, so I hope that the mountains there are treating you well, Eliot. Working simultaneously in the fields of improvised music and experimental poetry, he holds a bachelor's degree in contemporary improvisation from the New England Conservatory with a focus on piano, and an MFA in poetry from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. So Eliot, thank you for being here. I think we're going to get to know both of your genres a little bit tonight, which I am extremely excited for. Without any further ado, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Kristin. Those poems were awesome. Wow, that bio sounded really academic. But I'm here. Yeah, like Tom was saying, I'm a musician and a poet, and I guess because this is performance anxiety, at least that I'm feeling, I guess the only antidote is to perform. And I thought I would play a little bit of piano tonight, as well as, read some poems, kind of weave the two together. So thank you guys for having me. Thanks for being here. This is called At the Conservatory. Long live the king. At the end of my biography, the goats were yelling. Up a wholesome pitch, the fever stirring across the board on which the pieces had begun to move. In droves the goats left. Here I give this witness majesty, the whispers between sheaves, daily and daily becoming more human, louder and louder at the end of history. Of this the goats were dreaming. In partibus infidelium, inscribing how many countless years on the underground air, the copyrighted data of our infinite wayward music, how much dead-end light poured in through the cracked door. We crossed paths with the ether without sighting its prey. Lascaux was painted for those whose fire kept you away. Here where you can't imagine me, October turns the hillside pale and backwards green. At night, in the sleepless order of the house, beneath the dog-eared sheets, the city mourns you, glares above my dream. If a crisis had eyes, her lights would open them. Don't wait for fate to place your memory back on the street. Some days I lean like a fisherman and float out in. Toy Elegy for Michael Palmer after Patrick Pritchett. Locus, location, luster, low sodium sister. Where in zero have you been waiting for a monostitch of color? Where in the book have they led me now that it's here and there, in the wind and in your hair? Such a small, poor text, the shard and its magnifying glass, in Worcester and Gloucester, the center and its mass. Where in Boston are you from? I'm from the mentor class. The music box has not arrived whose promises are sinister. Can you ask me what I should and should not ask? What I know not to know now, nothing when it's there. Aleph. Fire shadow walls the frozen earth. Take this experience, and God, the scapegoat, lives. Only those strong investors know what time will win. The ox comes slowly down the hill, the smoky carriage house. Fill the lips with volumes. In the snow stands morning, naked, drowsy, full of sleep. On a bed of straw, a nightingale shakes out the frozen stars. A tear drawn by sunlight gurgles like a reed pipe through the lashes. Oh, to weep, but only for beauty. Love will break the straw, and the grim, unearthed smile of the decade, unleashed of its nightmares, ring. That was for Osip Mandelstam. I think I have a few more. I don't want to take over all the space from everybody else, but yeah, I think I'll read a few and then I'll play one more piece and then I might read one or two after that. But choke, finish the fishbone language, English, the burning bridge. Carry these customs over on a wave of oxygen. A scapegoat concept, word freed of meaning. Danger is a kind of ruin. Its long, slow lilac music resting at zero. This is another for Osip Mandelstam, Russian poet who died under Stalin. Steel, almond, hope, splayed triangle, bird to the eye perching aimlessly, lash on the lamb. Can I hear you saying what it means to exist in me? The book in a teapot or in the mind, the world we live in. No right angles. Off the board, this pains me. His mumbling down streets in Petropolis. Who was this third? And that one was for Adrian Lerson, who inspired it. Admission. The curtain wavers at the dawn light. I'll only write what needs forgetting. The weight of a ring no longer there on my finger. That's enough. Still wary of the plug hole, I hear myself clamoring for light between you and yourself in the wall. Transit into the unfortunate light of day, the sun-damaged march of morning. Is it red to beware this harvest below the map where the notes of heaven, intricate, drowsy, and latent, now are gone? What does this skeleton reach for in the dust around it? Every cell marches forward, braces toward winter shining, our bright stasis emptied of all of it. What now of the wilderness? Dream become phantom limb, awoken in ashen comfort by gray rain, reached for the stillness of sloping pine, raised high above your hearing, vertigo of a scream, the enduring fantasy. Monday. The itchy fibers of my coat return to their display, to relish this world, its stored up sea. This district insinuated, woven from real untranslated cities. The gray long glare of it staring out the horror from my eyes. This is how I know you to live forever. Noise from the kettle, the silence of scraps of paper holding vigil for the waves. I think that's it. Thanks.
Wow, Eliot, thank you so much for bringing the piano to performance anxiety. Kristin was right. I think that's the first time that's ever happened. So that was a really, really wonderful treasure. And it feels almost rude to ask you to do any more than you've already done for us. But if you would oblige me, of all people, I think I may have gotten some notes from Adrian, who was in the call with us when he was back in here in November, that you've worked on some translations recently, and Basil is clamoring to hear them if you're willing to read one or two, maybe, but no pressure either way while I subdue him.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I do have some poems by René Char that I've been translating. He was a French poet who fought in the resistance against the occupation in France. Thank you guys for thanks for the kind words and everything. Char encore. Anyway, so he fought in the resistance. He was a leader of the Maquis. He was helping to secure arms for the resistance. I mean, this was the real deal. He was very tall. Yeah. So I always joked that I should say up until very recently I joked that I have a lot of René Char in my arsenal, and what I'm going to read from is his very first section of his very first book, from Le Marteau Sans Maître, The Hammer with No Master, and this is called Arsenal. And then I got Arsenal from the Charsenal, yeah. And then I got like the Marianne Cause, Nancy Klein version, which is like 500, 600 pages long. And I was like, okay, I have very little char in my arsenal. So these are very short, and I might just read a few. But here's Rene Char. He wrote these between the ages of 17 and 20 or something. So they're really, I don't know, it's something else to be able to read this. The Prodigal's Torch. The quarantined enclosure burned. You, cloud, move on ahead. Cloud of resistance, cloud of caverns, towing hypnosis. Continuous truth. The inventor of the crevice tugs tumult's rope. We gauge the depth along the riled contours of the thigh. The quiet blood that releases confuses the needles, raises love without reading it. Possible. As soon as he was certain, with a tightness in his throat, he facilitated the word. She played on the 4-penny picture books. He spoke like one kills the beast or pity. His fingers touched the other shore, but the sky tilted so quickly that the eagle on the mountain had its head cut off. The pruner's umlaut. Because the sun was playing the peacock on the wall instead of traveling on treeback. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Some of these are, they're really like, they're like these little pitch cells or something. And he has this way of weaving these sort of colloquial phrases into something beyond the colloquial phrase. I don't know if there's a great example here, but blood soon to be released at last. The aerolith on the veranda breathes like a plant. The stronghold's very essence is its drawbridge. That one's called Defectors. Anyway, I'm still working on these, but that's a little taste. Thanks for asking me to read them, and thanks everyone for listening. I hope I didn't go on for too long.
Please. Thank you, Eliot. That was wonderful, and I'm so glad you indulged me and Basil, and you were reading the Char. Again, my Char is like, he's literally over my shoulder on the shelf, so he's looking over at this and being like, cool, my most Rimbaldian thing is happening in real life right now. That was wonderful. That, again, was Eliot Cardinaux. I know, Basil, it was just as awesome as I'm making it sound. And Eliot, you can find in many places, not least of which is Instagram, which you can find him at Eliot Cardinaux, ELIOTCARDINAUX. And you can also purchase Eliot's latest chapbooks and music at bodypress.bandcamp.com, BODILYPRESS.bandcamp.com, if you would like to listen to more, as I certainly do. Wow. Cool. No piano heretofore in performance anxiety, no Char encore, but we have broken new ground in the best way. And I'm also very excited to break over the page break in my lineup sheet to enter the back half of our reading order for tonight. I'm really excited to introduce a newcomer to performance anxiety, who we're really excited to have on and hear from, in Valerie Braylovskiy. Valerie Braylovskiy is a college student and lives in San Francisco, California. Her work has been featured in Agave Review, The Helix Magazine, and Cathexis Northwest Press. Half-Life will be her debut poetry collection. Excited for her first book, published by Alien Buddha Press, a friend of performance anxiety par excellence. So thank you so much, Valerie, for being here with us. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to read.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I have done a few readings, but I've never done a Zoom reading. And weirdly, it's more nerve-wracking to do it on Zoom than in person, which seems counterintuitive, but maybe makes sense. And I guess I'm really excited to read. I was thinking I'd read a few things from my upcoming chapbook collection, but First, I just had a few things that are more recent that I've been trying to get published, but rejections for now, but I wanted to put them out in the world somehow. So this is me doing that. So yeah, lately I've been writing a lot about the season of winter that we're in right now, and also just the notion of a body and what that means to me and to society in general. So that's what I'm going to start out with. So this one's called Cellular Plasticity. There is an unidentifiable lump on the back of my leg. No one can see it except for the mirror during my shower, who tells my reflection, who tells me. Lukewarm breaths sculpted for rejection, so I look away toward empty artifacts. Old shampoo bottles are on display in this art exhibit featuring broken razors and dirty soap. It is dreadful to be assigned the job of managing a body. Body manager, lifelong commitment with zero severance. I am not trained to care in this way, yet I learn what is healthy from what is not, how to promote cell growth and prevent degeneration, what foods will kill me faster. Everything will die and more will flourish, but how do I know I'm still growing when a neuron gives up on me each morning, tired of caring for their pesky owner, rebelling like the teenagers they never got to be? I want to believe in plasticity, this chemical derivative of giving second chances, upcycling dead fabric into slim jeans, turning bad into good. Naive of me to believe in change, but what else can be done? We hold on to what we are born with until it gets too heavy to carry. All right, I'm gonna continue with that sort of trend and read another one that I just wrote recently. This one's called Life. It honestly came about from just hearing the magnitude of that word and how much it's used on a daily basis, and just feeling really stressed out and annoyed by the usage of that word compared to what it actually means. So this was me trying to grapple with that. Life. I hate that word. Staring at me, the hope of its longevity when it's really just brief. 4 letters. The dot on the I hangs in disbelief, clutching to hang on and not be forgotten when spoken. I don't want to go early, so I always accentuate the dot. Bold it with marker to mark permanence. You keep swishing it around in your mouth like once a day mouthwash, twice a day if you have an online date that night. See how it feels responsible for too many subjects diverging in shape and compatibility? A newspaper obituary, living until you were told, or breaking the rules. First date questions of what you want to do, who you want to be. It isn't fair. Who gets more time to utter this word? Throw it around like an old futon everyone has slept on, laughed on, regretted on. Its multi-purpose morphology haunts me. English has failed us once again. Vita feels more elegant, analogous to anaphora. We never really leave. There must be a do-over. My date last night felt short, uninteresting to share my life with someone more interesting than me. There, I said it. That word I don't trust. Until I find a more bearable replacement, it'll have to do. Thank you. All right. This is a longer narrative poem. It's actually one of the first narrative poems I've written. And it's about the winter solstice. And I wrote it reflecting on it. And it still has a lot of work, but I just wanted to, read it, see how it sounded. It's called Midwinter. You tell me the moon looks like a fingernail floating in the sky. I kiss you, enamored by an ocean that is only ours. Unattainable softness foams in my mouth, unworthy of carrying a joy like this. We both knew this day was short, still too young to know solstice as departure. Driving west to get here was terse. Fields of imported fir trees, wreaths hanging from ambulance doors. Unbeknownst to the laws of memory, I forgot to remember what radio station was on. Windows undressed, my hungry mouth now hungry and dry. Small talk unwinds as we enter the flatness of Highway 1. This game is dangerous. How far one could travel without breaking the illusion of insignificance. You told me the stock market was down. I said my illness had relapsed. You asked if there was a cure. We pulled into the parking lot. Wild horses watch as we stake out a spot on the jagged cliff. We sit beside the others, everyone watching a layer of apricot glare shed its skin. Vulnerability simmers. The tide has never felt closer. This is when you observe the moon, a hanging fingernail in scrutiny. I kiss you in response. Let's go up there one day. My heart surges with the truth that you find opaqueness beautiful. In the meantime, we promise to travel to Stonehenge together next year, to track the sun like a blistering ball of wealth, an origin story unwilling to be uncovered. Abundance soaks my corduroys. It is almost dark enough to pretend we are the only ones left, light enough to see through my pants. Desperate to devour the last sweetness this year offers, extricating orange marmalade from an empty jar. We are children who have not yet tasted loss. A new winter sparkles with stillness, still distant enough to ignore. Glitter cascades off our tongues. Sunlight can convince anyone they are enough. All right. So, going along with the winter theme, this is actually a poem I wrote, weirdly enough, with the New Yorker in mind. I've always sort of made fun of the New Yorker with my friends who write as just something that is so unattainable to ever be published in, and just the fact that they usually never respond and say that they will respond in about 6 months. And so that's just some context for this poem. It's called The Dead of Winter. Thinking about how to start this poem with what is most relevant, or what will remain relevant in 6 months. Summer will be ripe and thick, our bodies will crave and receive desire. Longevity will be preserved and no one will go hungry, our bellies full of sweet rain. For now, I don't want to ask for too much, but this is what winter does. Leaves me thinking of what could be if an icy road thaws, a hand lifts into snow to say it needs help getting through 1 hour. We found a market selling summer fruits that were born in May, and it is too early for pleasure, to yearn for what I may never have. Thinking about time is not allowed, and is this not what poetry is? Writing to feel alive in the dead of winter? My fingers are numb and the windshield is broken. In 6 months, this will still be relevant. Writing about seasons can never change even when months are taunting me with their nuances. How January can look so much like June, with outdoor fruit markets and children laughing, and broken windshields. All right. I think before I go into a couple of poems from my recent collection that's coming out on February 9th, I'll read one more, but I've lost the paper, so I'm trying to find it. All right. This one is called The End. Is it abnormal to be bombarded with everything at once? The permanence of loss at his funeral across the street still haunts me because no one showed up and I couldn't even pay proper condolences. Expressions like "hey babe" are frothy and broadcasted. Too much milk and coffee spoils a bitterness meant for two. Proof of existence and moral hierarchy are located in your following, numerical and tangential, like who I met through which app, which I cannot track anymore, or which person knows which parts of me. This is the cost of human error, the creation of a monster we are ill-equipped to survive. The beginning of the end is beginning, and I feel like a monster for enjoying it. Okay. So as Tom mentioned, I have my first collection, Half-Life, coming out with Alien Buddha Press, which, if you don't know about that press, it's really amazing. It's run by an awesome guy, and I highly recommend checking it out. There's a lot of really cool writers and artists. So I'm going to read a few poems from Half-Life. So this first one is called Am I a Mutant? I've had a rash on my skin for 5 years and it won't go away. Sweetie, please don't talk about that at dinner. Well, I'm sorry that I can't stop itching my mutant illness that peels whenever I am hurt by the world or watching reruns of broadcast television. My body has changed. Ancient bruises faded into Bay Bridge fog, but my rash won't leave me alone. Occasionally, I forget my mutation and feel whole. Like someone can stroke me and kiss me while fluorescent light exposes my alien parts. Other times it returns like a disease, which I cannot decide whether to punish or to love. I itch and feel good. A slow burn crawling around an incomplete archetype. Maybe I am special. All right. And I think the last one I'm going to read is also from Half-Life. I'm just trying to find it. It's called A Religious Confession. Hanukkah starts today. It is dark at 4:30. I walk back alone at 4:35. I can't see my feet, swollen from pacing and praying. What was the myth where the lights never died? It's only the first day and my insides are moldy. I wish my clothes would reek of potato peels and my calluses would peel from peeling potatoes and babushka would boil tea to soothe these growing aches. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzvitanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Why did we pay so much for you to forget? He says as his gums bleed a foreign dialect. Every Sunday I prayed for a coastal snowstorm to flood the synagogue, where I wasn't Jewish enough but too Jewish to pretend I wasn't. I stood at the altar while photographs were taken of my strange frame. It had been 7 hours since it ate. We drove to the doctor the next day because I was too skinny. Is that not the female American dream? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. I grow older, losing prayers like mismatched socks and hair ties, when one day religious pursuit is a joke. But they tried to repair broken lineage. Parting my hair like the other Jewish girls, cover your knees to find a good Jewish boy. Hitler haunts my dreams because even he mocks my personal failures. Cultural anonymity fills me like a jelly donut. I am never enough and God knows it. Thank you. I think that's all I'm going to be reading today. I appreciate everyone listening and all the nice things.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for reading us into this evening in January, the winter theme. And we haven't mentioned it, but performance anxiety has a big penchant for new shit, as Kristin put in the chat. So your willingness to read new work and your exciting new book coming out, again, that some of the stuff that you heard Valerie read was from Half-Life, which again is coming out from Alien Buddha Press on February 9th. So keep an eye out for that. And if you'd like to follow the rest of Valerie's writing exploits, you can find Valerie on Twitter at vbraylov, VBRAYLOV. So thank you so much again, Valerie, for that reading, and we're really excited for Half-Life when it graces print. And Basil's already like, he's like, did you do the pre-order? I'm like, no, not yet, but I will, I promise. All right. So while Basil is doing his thing, I am very excited to introduce our final reader of the evening. It always goes by so quick, but somebody whose work I'm really excited by, whose poems I love, and that is John Compton. John Compton is a gay poet who lives in Kentucky with his husband Josh and their dogs and cats. His latest book is The Castration of a Minor God from Ghost City Press, but I know there's another one coming, John, so feel free to read from whatever you like, and whatever you read, it's going to be awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And am I allowed to talk about my stuff for a second, about like all the things I do? All right, so I'm also the poetry editor of Ghost City Review, which the email is ghostcityreview@gmail.com, and we open back up February 1st. And I'm also the publisher of Voice Lux Press, and Lux is Lux. And you can go to voiceluxpress.com, and I have an amazing team, Joe Nasta and Tommy Sheffield, and we relaunched this year, and we're open for e-chapbook submissions, and we plan on publishing 4 this year, and the submissions are free for that. And then next month, we're open up for paperback chapbooks. So those submissions, it'll be $5 entry fees, and that'd just go to help on paying for publishing. And we'll have like royalties and all that stuff too for the e-chapbook and paperback series. And also, yeah, I have this book. Oh, if you order The Castration of a Minor God, it comes with a free PDF chapbook. Oh, I went blank. I don't even know what the title of it is. Oh, The Skies Fell Revelations. And I have a new chapbook coming out. Pre-orders will be this month, the end of this month or the beginning next month. And I'm horrible with my titles. It's something like We Liberated. We modified what secrets we liberated or something like that, but I'll post 4 billion times on it. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I'm everywhere. So I wasn't going to read a new poem, but I'm going to read a new poem because y'all talked about how you get excited with the new poems. So I'm going to read a new poem first. And I just want to say thank you. I've enjoyed the listening. I love the poems. They're wonderful, and I love the piano. I can't play an instrument to save my life, but I love listening. And thank you, Tom, for the compliments also. That makes me feel good. And I'm honored to be here. And if you can't tell, I'm very excited. So this one, oh, and my poems are like, I have a lot of gay poems and anti-religious poems, and I don't know if y'all do trigger warnings or not, just all of them. Just, you'll probably be offended. I always say that as a joke. Alrighty, so this one's called After Realizing My Name Means Gift from God. Sorry. I'm nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous. I've read 10 billion times. I represent something that is familiar to somebody, a garden too invaded by creeping thistle. I must be sick. I must be eroded. My body muddy and moist, leaving me bloated and drowning. The water wasting out my pores. The religious betrow contemptuously. Resentment falling from their mouths. It is too harsh to not be a choice. You belong in hell. May their teeth resume chewing. May my bones be more charming. Least the bones can't look gay. Least the bones can fashion themselves normal, off-white and not pink. You can't tell by examining which bones wore what skin suit, and by that I mean the word fag is not engraved in the bones. Gay is a death sentence. That body is a funeral. The body represents growth and procreation. The bones, the bones, the bones tell you no secrets, no truths. You are more beautiful when silenced. And that is that poem. And I try to read the italic parts, try to make them more, so hopefully you got the italics where the other people who are homophobic are talking. So I'm spontaneous. Yeah. So I'm spontaneous and I never choose what poems to read. I just go to them and just zoom because I think it's more fun when you don't know what you're gonna do. So the first, I'm going to read poems from my book, The Castration of a Minor God. And if anybody does want to order it, GoCityPress.com, the book section. It's $10 with $3.50 shipping and handling. And if you live in Canada, because a few people from Canada has wanted to buy it, it's $25 altogether, but you have to email GoCityPress@gmail.com and talk to Kevin personally because the website won't do Canada for some odd reason. All right, so this first one is titled, His Hair Went Up Like a Wick. Lost in the atmosphere, wanting the flames to undress my body, and ashes cover my mother's face. I want her to remember a beautiful son. When I killed my only dear, I cried. It wasn't that she was dead, but alive, observing her blood. She pled from her eyes. My father told me to shoot her again, not evil, but love. The second bullet would be peace, where the first forgot its duty. And that's that poem. Thank you. So let's see. And this poem is really cool. So it was my first Pushcart nominated poem. It got published in this anthology, and the editor of the anthology liked it so much he titled the whole anthology the title of my poem, and that was a really cool honor. It's called The Men Who Made Bonfires. They took two men from their bed, nude, and bound them after their on-site trial. They dragged them from their home, their secret revealed, and forced them to the town square. They held them up as a vile distrust and laced their bodies, each bound inside a tire filled with gasoline, for all to see the monsters burn, their disgust in flames, what two men shall never gain. They clothed them in fire, made them women in orange dresses, dancing. And that's that poem. All right. So this book is in four, thank you everyone. This book is in 4 sections and it's about grown-up gay, and I call it the Red Bible Belt because it's very Republican and lately it's been very Trump MAGA. And then it's church. Churches are everywhere. Like the town I live in, there's not a red light, there's not a store, there's nothing. But I live between 2 churches, and literally, the town is the size of my pinky. It doesn't exist really. But yeah, so that's where I grew up at. So, and then it's about family, mental health, and stuff like that. So this next poem I'm gonna read, people really seem to enjoy. It's called Roland, and that's my father's name. If my father had not sewn his palms to my mother's womb, I would have never known his existence. His voice like vinyl, thick and scratched, barely audible through the skin. If he had known my ears worked, maybe his voice would have been louder, and he wouldn't have been afraid to say, I love you. And that's that poem. All right. And so let's see. Oh, I'm gonna read this poem. And this poem's a true story. Some people love their family, some people hate their family. I always say friends are blood is not always as thick as water or whatever, that saying. So my grandmother, who's dead, we weren't in a great relationship, and I know it may shock you. I'm speaking ill of my grandmother, but are we allowed to cuss here? Tom, are we allowed to cuss? She was a bitch. So she drove 100 miles to tell me she found out I was a homosexual and she's going to pray for me a good wife and child. And then she tried to invite herself in, and I told her to leave, and she said, but it's hot out here. And I said, well, your car has air conditioner. I've been in it. And then she left. So I wrote, okay. So I got one time I said that about my grandmother, and I got some gas, like, oh my gosh. It's like, well, if you would have known her, you would have understood. So this is titled Mary, my grandmother's name. Your mouth is my grandmother's. Now she speaks with her dead voice from your vocal cords. The sharp vowels try to pin my conscience. Strong consonants devalue my power. The words themselves leak resin. Wife and children escape her teeth, trying to catch me. She cannot understand I don't want either. That I am not gay because I choose to be, but simply I am. Her pyramid scheme of love is ancient. She drives to me with prayer. I turn her away with heat. And that's that poem. So, thank you. So so my first publisher, Trainrod Else, from my first publisher for my first book, Trainrod Elsewhere, he was magnificent and he spoiled me. And I learned the hard way, not every publisher was like him. But he was fantastic and he knew everyone. And I met a lot of incredible poets through him. And one of them was Stephen Sandy. And unfortunately, he passed away some time ago. He had cancer. He went into recession. It came back. I wrote this poem is too dedicated to him. And it's probably weird. But it was like my thank you type of language. And I'm a weirdo. It's called Men Fall Apart for Stephen Sandy. Open your mouth, spew an ocean, dead fish suspend. Your body produces innumerable footprints, spilling toenails. Boneyards of scales, fins, eyes rise to the surface, wandering like wells. Our face breach parallel to the sky, ingesting wings from birds, hoping to learn flight. And that's that poem. Thank you. So, my mother, and I gotta keep track of time. We'll be here until midnight. I just read forever. My mother, we're like friends now. She's still my mother, but we're better in a friendly relationship. But I write a lot of poems in like perspective of her. And so this next one is inspired by her in the utmost horrible way, but a blessing. She had 2 miscarriages, but if she hadn't had one of them, I wouldn't be here because like soon afterwards she got pregnant with me. So this poem is inspired by one of her miscarriages, not in a bad way, in a beautiful way. I try to make it beautiful. It's called How We Bury Fish. Emotionless womb. You remember your fish, you were 8. It was floating belly up. You tapped on your stomach as a mother, a little girl trying to tap her fish from sleep. You gave birth to a stillborn. My father explained to me how we bury fish. I heard the toilet flush behind my sobbing. And that's that poem. Oh, I don't know how many more minutes I have. I'm a horrible person. Um, I'll read one more poem because and here's how I wanted to end. So Kristin, the first one who read Garth, she is the publisher of the Pink or Plastic I'm so sorry, I can't remember nothing. I have 120-year-old brain. It forgets how to breathe sometimes. So anyhow, she's the publisher of the Pink Plastic House. I hope I got that right. I probably didn't, but y'all know what I mean. Well, anyhow, she had a Halloween special, like a Halloween thing, and she published my poem, The Every Tree, and it's a really long poem. I'm not going to read it all, but this was my second Pushcart nomination, and I was so honored she believed in this poem enough to nominate it, because like, I'm not trying to be rude. I'll probably never win, and that's not the point. The point is the editor believes in you enough, because they only can choose so many, to send it to the nominations. So that's what gets me thrilled. And thank you for saying it's fantastic. So anyhow, I want to read this one section, which I really love, and it's creepy and crazy and dark. And it's like the 3rd or 4th part in the poem. You stumble into panic, crawling across the yard like a spider. On hands and knees, you traverse over grass. Where is it that you're escaping to? Nails root into the ground like earthworms, wild and covered in slime. Your eyes dance until they are focused. Your mouth is pregnant with the tongue that will forgive you for drying up, like a stone that will crush your skull. And someone will find it as a mistake, carrying you home like a pulled tooth. Your limber cock, that swinging pendulum like a trunk, an extension that will grow outward like a limb. It rubs the skin, slaps the belly past dogs and cats and into the abstract claustrophobic landscape of ghost shapes mistaken for rotting darkness. Her breasts prepare to feed you. They burst. A river erupts in milk. And that's that part. And I just want to say that poem is the end poem, thank you, of the book. And it's about mental health. And I wanted to create a world where this person accidentally commits suicide and he thinks he didn't. And so he just goes to go, throughout his day. But then like little things go and then by the end of it, he realizes he's dead. So anyhow, thank you. I'm so honored. Thank you for all the wonderful comments. I've seen some. I didn't see others. I've seen them pop up. I don't know how to get into the comment section. But I had a fantastic time. Ooh.
Thank you so much, John. I love that, this sort of occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge style ending full circle, like with Kristin, and, it being sort of a nice belated birthday gift as well. I like to get to hear that poem live and in person. So that, again, was John Compton, who we're very, very glad to have had on the program. Not only can you get his latest book, The Castration of a Minor God, from Ghost City Press in those ways that he described, but also How We Liberated What Secrets We Modified is forthcoming, the chapbook that I'm really excited to know about and to hear about and to read when it's alive and in person very soon. It's been an absolute privilege and pleasure. John, did you have something you wanted to add really quick? Basil likes that stuff.
Let you announce everything. I didn't know you had that title. I didn't even know the title of my own chapbook.
I may or may not have pulled it off the email, and I was like, I should know that, those words in that order, but there are so many beautiful new chapbooks coming out in the world from this reading, and I hope that you will seriously consider going out and finding them all. They're all so beautiful, and again, we're just always so lucky to have poets with us these evenings. So thank you so much to all of our readers for sharing their beautiful work with us this evening, and thank you too to our listeners for giving this hour of their lives over to poetry, whether you're listening live with us in the Skype call or on YouTube. I hope that if you are listening and you have a sheaf of your own new poems, new shit close at hand, or a book coming out or anything like that, please consider dropping us a line. We really do love to hear from people who want to read with us. If you have friends who are like, we should hear, you want them to read stuff and you think they should be heard more, please send them our way. We're always so lucky to get people that way. You can find us again on Performance Anxiety on Twitter, poetrybooksontape@gmail.com. Our next reading is February 16th, and we would love to see you there. And I fell off this last time, but it's something that we always do, or did always do. I always try to end Performance Anxiety with a poem, because that's what we're here for. So this is from this really wonderful anthology called Love Poems for Women, edited by Wendy Mulford. And I was reminded of it because somebody was like, what? Somebody tweeted, they were like, what would you recommend to people who had read like Mary Oliver and Rupi Kaur, but wanted to like do more poetry stuff? And like, this book is immediately the first thing that came to mind. I love this book so much. It has so many amazing poems in it. And I'm just going to close tonight's reading by reading one Richard McCain translation of an Anna Akhmatova poem called I See the Crescent Moon. I see the crescent moon through the willow's thick foliage. I hear the regular beat of unshod hooves. You don't want to sleep either? In a year, you weren't able to forget me. You're not used to finding your bed empty? Don't I talk with you in the sharp cries of falcons? Don't I look into your eyes from the matte, white pages? Why do you circle round the silent house like a thief? Or do you remember the agreement and wait for me alive? I am falling asleep. The moon's blade cuts through the stilling dark. Again, hoofbeats. It is my own warm heart that beats so.